Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching our show today. We are on our second episode of the Business and Life Mastery Show with Debbie and Elizabeth. I'm your host today, Elizabeth Navarrete with Houston REI Network. Please stick around. We'll be right back after this short break.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, CreativeCashflow.com, and Lifeonaire.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Business and Life Mastery Show with Debbie and Elizabeth. I'm your host today, Elizabeth Navarrete, alongside my beautiful co-host, Debbie Camacho Franco. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have a phenomenal show scheduled for you guys. It's going to be fire, fire, fire. We're going to be spitting fire today. We have an amazing guest. We have Lily Corona from Houston, Texas, our phenomenal house flipper and burned homes extraordinaire. She will be discussing fire damaged homes, how she turned ashes into gold.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and thank you, Elizabeth, for the phenomenal introduction, and of course my excellent, brilliant co-host. So, but again, for new viewers, I'm Debbie Camacho Franco with Franco Acquisitions, and you know, to echo Elizabeth, we have a phenomenal guest today, Lily. Not only did she, you know, come all the way from Houston to be here with us, but also her experience and diverse background, and her passion for helping people, but also educating her fellow investors is very commendable. So that's why we're really excited to have her here today. And so I'll now go ahead and send it over to you, Lily, so you can give us a little bit more on your background.
Sure. Well, thanks, ladies, and also thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure going through the process and getting ready for the show and finally being here with you guys.
Absolutely.
So just a little bit about me. So I'm actually prior military. I come from the Army. And
thank you for your service.
Oh,
thank you.
My pleasure.
Yes.
My pleasure. And so really, I happened to get into real estate after I served about 8 years in the military. I served overseas and I went to the Middle East. And after about 8 years, I was going to get deployed to Iraq. But around that time, my mom, you know, moms are, she was really, really worried about me going out there. And so I thought it was just time to get out. Sure. So I moved to California, and I jumped into the real estate business out there. And out there, I was actually a realtor. And but I still had, you know, the discipline that we have in the military and the drive. And I was still waking up at 4 a.m, going to the gym. And I was treating my real estate career like I did my military career.
Exactly.
And so, you know, thanks to God, I excelled. And I actually started at RE/MAX, and I was the up-and-coming star of the year. And many, many opportunities were presented to me. So long story short, in California, you know, I did about 15 years of being a realtor out there, and I was one of the mentors actually for Keller Williams as well.
Wow.
And then after that, I got homesick and came back home to Houston to my family and my mom. And then I met who's now husband, and he actually comes from the framing background. So he's always been involved in construction.
Perfect match. Right
Exactly.
There. Oh,
yes.
Exactly.
I love it because you both are a dynamic duo that work together.
We are.
I absolutely love it. So hashtag power couple right there. Because I mean, I've seen it firsthand, the amazing work that you've done, and I'm so excited to get right into it and show us what you've done, show us your work. And I want you to, Lily has some amazing case studies that we're going to dissect and get into. It's going to be really, really exciting. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Right.
Sure.
Let's do it.
This.
Class has begun, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Exciting. So,
No.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to tell you that one of the things is that I want everybody to know that I never actually studied any of this. When I came to Houston, I just jumped into real estate investing, and I dragged my husband into it, and my brother is also prime military, and I dragged him into it, and I just had this vision. And one day I just decided I wanted to do fire damaged houses. I don't know why, but I woke up and decided that. So all of this that I'm going to talk to you about is just everything that I taught myself, everything that I learned from experience. So I don't want anybody to think that I was professionally, trained in this. This is just everything that I did research on and learned and everything. And I'm happy to share my knowledge.
And that's exactly why I was saying that it's just so commendable, right? Because, while obviously professional experience and education is very important, but there's nothing like actually going through your own experiences, because that's really when you learn. So that's phenomenal, and the fact that you're willing to share all the golden nuggets that we're about to see,
Absolutely.
We're very thankful. So all right, let's get started.
Let's do this. All right.
So I brought you a couple of case studies, and these are two of the projects that we've done. I've actually rehabbed about 8 fire damaged houses in the past year. I started in 2016.
Wow.
We've done 18 rehabs, and out of those 18, 8 have been fire damaged. And so I brought you 2 of them. This one that we're looking at, they're looking at it now, right?
Right.
So this one is actually, we call this Project Myrna. And you see me here, I was pregnant there also. But there I'm with one of the inspectors, because one of the things that I want to touch on is that with these fire damage houses, there are so many inspections that go into it, from HOAs, from the city, from the county, lenders, so that was actually an inspector, and you can see some of the houses, some of the work that we're doing on them here. These are some of the during, and this is also during, and then also some of these also have damage to the foundation that we have, and then this one didn't have a roof. The fire went straight through the roof.
Wow.
And so we had to do all the framing on that.
Well, I want to say something, and it's kind of a dumb joke that I'm going to bring in here, but I'm going off tangent. But because I see a lot of deals that come into my get to my desk that look similar to this, you don't see a roof, and then they're like $15,000 rehab. This wasn't $15,000,
No,
right?
the roof.
Okay.
The framing was $15,000.
Right. You see, folks.
So Lulu, just curious on that. So the pictures that we just saw, now to break it down in the process, so that would be like the first initial evaluating the property.
Right.
So
exactly.
that's that one step. Okay. Awesome.
So right now the pictures are kind of showing you. Oh, so we're jumping into like after already, because I just want you to see kind of what the work looks like.
Right.
But no, you can keep going.
I can keep going?
And then I can break down how we evaluate the property.
This is that same house without
this
the
is
roof.
the same house.
That's you
This
see,
is
folks?
the after.
That's pretty amazing.
This one, actually, let me give you some of the bullet points on this one.
Okay.
So we purchased this one for $60,000.
Okay.
The rehab that went into it was $90,000. We ended up selling that one for $230,000. I'm sorry, $229,000. The ARV was $230,000, and the days on market were 16 days.
That's great. That's really, really good.
Yeah. This is a second one.
Okay, the
Okay.
second
So
one.
this one, the project name on this one is Canyon. Now the other one that I just showed you was a flip, and this is I ended up keeping this as a rental.
Okay.
So I'll give you the stats on this one. This one, we purchased this one for $30,000. Okay, it's a 2,400 square foot house. The rehab on this one was $100,000. The ARV is $220,000. I ended up renting it for $1,800 a month, which is currently rented right now, and I refinanced it so I could keep it for long term. And my principal and interest on that's $865.
Okay.
So, I didn't bring my taxes and insurance on that, but just so you can, kind of see where my numbers are at as far as what the return, is that I'm looking for.
Awesome. So tell us, I know that you said, okay, that was your second one. How did you come about finding these particular properties?
I'm glad that you asked me that, because a lot of people wonder if I'm out there, driving around looking for them.
Right.
I wish I had that time, but I don't. I have a little 9-month-old baby. I'm pregnant again, and I have a family and a business to run. So I absolutely love wholesalers. I'm a big fan of wholesalers, and
great. We love wholesalers.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that one of the problems that we're having in the industry right now, and especially when it comes to this niche, is that there's not much knowledge out there. Like I said, I couldn't find classes. I couldn't find, instructors that teach on rehabbing fire damaged houses. So I pretty much had to teach myself. And along the way is where I kind of created my own little formulas.
Exactly.
And so what I want to do is I want to educate wholesalers, I want to educate other investors who can then also educate the homeowners who are selling these fire damaged houses, you know, because I'm seeing numbers out there that just don't make sense, you know,
Sure.
and I love it when wholesalers bring me, you know, these deals. But at the same time, I want to, you know, make sure that these deals make sense. You know,
Exactly.
I don't want to go into bankrupt from like, you know, one house that I buy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
Okay.
So now, and then just to recap, so I think what we're going to go in, you're going to elaborate a little bit more on how to evaluate the property. Also take a look at, you know, what percentage the property was had fire damage. We're also going to take a look at, you know, the decisions that you make, whether it's a rehab or a tear down. And then also we're going to go into the framing aspect of things and of course getting into the nitty gritty in that. So,
yes.
okay. All right.
And I'm going to try to go to do this as quickly as I can with the points, but because I want to make sure that we get to the permits. The permits are what's extremely important.
Super important. Absolutely. That'll make or break your sale too, and also your budget.
Exactly. And I think that that's one of the things that many people are not considering when they're looking at a property. They're just looking at the damages, but they don't put into consideration everything else that has to go behind the scenes, you know, of these properties. So if you don't mind, I'm going to step out.
Please do.
Okay.
Be careful.
All right. So let me see.
If you need help, let us know.
Okay, let me just fix myself here.
Okay.
Okay. So first, what we're going to talk about is evaluating a property, right?
Okay.
Now, what do we look at when we go in and we look at the structure? Obviously, most of these properties are, you know, very damaged from smoke, water. So has there been a lot of water damage already, so that there might be mold already? Also, is it going to need framing? You know, is the structure salvageable or is it not? Now, what happens is that with these properties, you absolutely have to get it at least 70% or below, you know, minus the repairs. You have to use that formula. And the reason for that is because fire damaged houses have so much work that needs to go into it that if it's not at least the 70% deal, it's not a deal. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that this is going to be a 70% deal, right? And of course, what we know is that at 70%, what we're calculating is going to be, of course, you know, the purchase price. You're going to also calculate, of course, the repairs. And then the main thing that you're going to also look into is holding costs. Because with fire damaged houses, you're not going to be finished in 30 to 60 days.
That's right.
You know, you're going to be probably sitting on this house for about anywhere from 4 to 6 months, you know. So you got to look at your holding costs, right? Another thing, like I was mentioning, is that one of the most important things that happens with with a fire damaged house is that a lot of people overlook the permits. Okay, so what happens with the permits is that fire damaged houses get, and I'm speaking also from experience in Houston. So every county, every district, they all have their own regulations, rules, and ways that they do things.
So we're discussing Harris County.
Yes, Harris County and Houston, and that's the only experience I know because that's the only place I've ever repaired houses. So I would suggest if you want to get into doing these type of properties, you should research what your jurisdiction requires when it comes to these type of properties. So with us, what happens is that before you even start anything, you have to go to the city, and the city will then tell you what they want you to do. It's not going to even be you that's going to go in there and be like, oh, I want to do this, and I think I'm going to be able to. No, they'll send out the inspector first, and they're going to tell you. So from the moment you acquire the property till the moment you actually get the appointment for the inspection, what is that time frame that we're looking at? Sometimes I actually, if I'm a little bit, by now I kind of have an idea of what the inspector and what the city is going to, kind of tell me because, I've done so many of them. But if I'm on the fence, I actually tell the wholesaler, and lots of the wholesalers might be watching me, they know that I tell them this. I say, I'm very interested in your property. However, I cannot go into contract until I go into the city and I can discuss it. Because the city will actually, here's a good nugget, the city will send out an inspector free of cost in order to evaluate the property. And then the city inspector will come back to the city and they'll have a report of what's going to have to be done to that property. So this is where it becomes very, very important. The inspectors will qualify that fire damage house in different categories by percentage. Right. So that means that they'll start off on the property with 40% damage. If you're at 40% damage, that's going to be an easy repair. Okay, you're more than likely, you're still going to have the inspections, because a fire damage house, when you're evaluating it, a fire damage house will more than likely have to be like a gut job. You probably will have to change all the electricity, right, all of the plumbing, all of the HVAC. And another thing is, most of the time, these properties don't even have a meter. They've been, they don't even have electric meters. Some of them don't have gas meters, so.
And that in itself can be a very lengthy process.
Extremely.
I've gone through this so many times with a house not having a meter, especially when I buy a HUD home. Oh my gosh, it is a lot of time to wait, a lot of missing pieces that between the service provider and actual center point, which is who we use in Houston.
That's who we use.
Yeah, so it's a lengthy process. So expect to get on the phone several times and yell at many people to get that meter put on.
And not only that though, but they want certain things to be done to the property before they'll even consider a meter. And so it's almost kind of like a new build, really, to tell you the truth. Except with these fire damage houses, you have to do some tear down and then in order to rebuild. Right. So like I was saying, with 40%, you're still going to have your inspections, but it's not going to be as difficult. Okay. So when you're evaluating the property, you're going to have to look at the percentage of the fire damage, because you're going to have to consider that's going to be a huge point to point out into the repairs. So like, for example, if it's going to be 40%, it's not going to be as strict. So you're probably not going to have too much of holding costs, because you're probably not going to have too many inspections. Right. Now, when what I do is I calculated my own little formula of how much my repairs are probably going to be.
So okay? What is the range that you use to calculate?
Okay, good. I'm glad you asked me that. So when I look at something that looks like it's about 40%, okay, and 40%, I'm talking about you go in and maybe there are some, studs that are damaged, and maybe there's, cabinets that are burnt, but there's not really any framing, and so then I'm like, okay, I usually I start off at $40 a square foot. So 40% usually equals $40 per square foot. That's just a general guideline. Okay. So you're going to go ahead and that's usually includes, your mechanicals. That usually includes your labor. That usually includes your cosmetics, and usually it also includes all your material. Okay. So 40%, if you want to jump into a fire damage house, try to stick at 40%.
Okay. Up to what percentage will the city call it as a house to be demolished?
Yes, good. I'm glad that you asked me that. Great questions, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
So let me go ahead and jump to the middle one.
Okay.
I like to stick at 40%. I'll go all the way up to 50 to 60%. At 50 to 60%, now you're talking about framing. Okay. One of the case studies that I brought, you could see there that, there was no roof. One of the other case studies that I brought, the whole entire garage collapsed, right? And so then, so you're, and the 50 to 60%, now you're looking at major structural damage, right? So now, more than likely, not only are you going to have, your entire team together, right? Oh, you guys were talking about teams the other day. Yes. So I pay attention.
High performance teams.
So you're going to have your team together that you always have, Plus, you're probably going to have an architect, and you're probably going to have an engineer. And more than likely, look at the foundation as well, because if you're going to start building items, like for example, I had to build a whole entire garage, and so we had to make sure that the foundation was going to be correct. I had to do foundation inspections. We had to get the plans. We had to get an engineer to come in there. So that's where here in the 50 to 60%, you're definitely going to start getting into $50 to $70. Oops, sorry. $70 a square foot. Okay, that's because these architects and engineers don't come cheap.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So not only that though, once you start getting into this level, your inspections are going to start being much more intricate. So city inspectors will start coming out, and one of the things that I just want to advise to you when it comes to city inspectors is that you can go and put in for your inspection, and it's your responsibility, by the way, your responsibility to send in for the inspection. I learned that the hard way. Okay. Basically, you have to go in phases, okay? So once you finish your framing, you have to go and set up an inspection, okay? They come whenever they want to come, okay? They come, they do their inspection, and this was a very trying time for me once. But one of the joists actually, I'm sorry, one of the studs wasn't burnt. It just looked like it had gotten smoky.
Okay.
Nope. Didn't pass the inspection because of that.
Oh.
Okay. So you have to get another inspection. So you have to make the corrections. Then you have to go in and request another inspection. Then wait for your scheduled inspection, and then have the city inspector come in again. Okay. So once that inspection is finished, then you can move on to your next phase. Okay. So everything, and remember, with permits, your plumber have to get permits, the electrician has to get permits, your structure, but another point I want to make really quick before we get into a little bit more into permits is that every jurisdiction is very different. Some jurisdictions do require for the contractors, the GC, to be licensed, and some of them don't, okay? Also, some of them require that every single one of them, your plumber, your electrician, your GC, or whatever, be registered with, their specific office. And so you have to look into that as well. Because if your current team is not, either they go ahead and get registered, or you have to find somebody else.
It's a golden nugget right there.
Many.
Gosh.
I have a quick question for you. So when you mentioned earlier towards the beginning that you have to involve an architect and an engineer, do you get these? Do you hire these, outsource these individually, or do you go to somebody that does it? Because there are companies out there, I won't mention who, but there are companies out there that do all this together as a package for you.
Exactly.
Do you go with them, or
I actually go individual.
Okay.
Okay, and this is this is a tip here. What I recommend is, if you want to go ahead and start getting into this, this is what I did when I first started. I started calling around, and I got into, also I would go into Facebook and get on, I'm a part of a million groups. So I would go in there and I would start, kind of interviewing some of these professionals and get an idea of how much, per square foot they charge. So architects, by the way that they charge is that they charge $1 per square foot in order to do your plans. And so, so I, like I said, I like to do everything individual, just because I like to have, my go-to people. So I might not need, and by the way, I'm glad that you said that, because the city is the one that's going to tell you who you're going to need.
Okay.
So they're going to tell you whether you are going to need an architect to go out there and do the plans, and they're going to tell you if you're going to need an engineer to go out there and do an evaluation. Sometimes they'll just need plans. Maybe they won't need,
Thank you.
Evaluation. So anyway, so that's where we are here with the 50 to 60%. And remember, this these are going to be given to you by the city inspector. Okay, so
from their initial inspection,
exactly.
even before you contract the deal.
Well,
or
like,
when you
like I said, by now I kind of already have an idea of what the percentage is going to be just by looking at it when I evaluate. But like I said, if I'm on the fence, I will, I'll go and speak to a city inspector, or I'm sorry, go to the city and try to get an idea.
So would you say it's wise for somebody, we have a lot of viewers that I know mentioned before we went on air that this is something new, that they've turned away deals because they don't know really how to start. So the best way is get with the wholesaler, walk it, and also tell the wholesaler, look, I am interested, or but I would like the city to come out and take a look and give me an inspection, and then take it from there and see if it's a wise.
Right. The only time that I would probably do that is if there's a whole entire missing roof. If there was, and then also I try to get an idea of what happened. I mean, was it like a gas explosion? Or was it, an electrical fire, or was it, a cooking accident? What type of fire was it? And then if I see, like I said, if I see then the kitchen is pretty much, I'm looking around and it looks like, there was a lot of smoke. They probably put out the fire fairly quickly, and the cabinets are charred, and then might need, the plumbing to be replaced and the electrical and all that. That's probably going to be an okay deal, So you probably don't have to go to the city. But if you see, like I've seen some of these properties that they look like they're falling down, and you walk in and, the ashes are still, coming down, and you don't even really want to go in, I mean, that's probably something that I would go to the city and, probably even just talk to. And by the way, many people get really intimidated about going to the city and asking for, information. I play the girl card. Go in there with my pregnant belly and just say, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. I just, I bought this house, and please, can you just help me? It's burnt, and I want to repair it, and I just need to know, what do I need to do? And they'll help you.
Right,
I mean, it's, I know that the city sounds scary, but, they'll help you. Yeah. So
they're quite helpful.
And speaking of that, I'm kind of seeing some comments too, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but I know a lot of people are commenting on city inspections and stuff. So I definitely can't wait to hear some about those comments, because we all love city inspections, right?
We actually have John George Alvarez that's tuning in. Thank you, John. At what point does the city consider it a tear down?
Okay, from my experience, John, and I'm glad that you brought this up because I was actually going to segue into that point. Anything I've noted from my experience, okay, and maybe other people have, had other experiences, but from my experience, I have noticed that anything that has a 70% and above amount of fire damage, usually by that time, you get into that it has to be either torn down, or you get into serious code violations. And we haven't even talked about HOAs yet. But HOAs probably have huge lawsuits on these properties. I had one of those, by the way. That might have to be a different story, but we had to deal with an HOA. Actually, on one of the case studies I brought to you today, they were trying to charge us like $14,000 or something. I can't remember how much it was, but it was, just from cease and desists, and, code violations. And because you also have to get permits from the HOAs. If there's an HOA, you have to go through their entire, ordeal. They sometimes want their own inspections. They want, certain things to be done. They want,
their own approvals.
Yes.
Roof, shingles, paint color, all that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, and actually, it might be a 40% fire damage house at the city, and the HOA might say, oh, no, we need your architectural plans, and we need an engineer to go out there and evaluate and this and that. So, basically you have to do your research on what's going to happen with the HOA and what's going to happen with the city.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lily. And with that, we ask our viewers to like, to comment, post your questions. We may not get to all of them during the show, but we will definitely have Lily answer as many as possible during the show and even afterwards on the post. So please like, comment, share. And with that, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites. Access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you're enjoying our show. That we're talking about fire damaged homes from ashes to gold with Lily Corona. Thank you, Lily. You have been sharing a lot of fantastic information before this break. So going off of the case study that we're discussing, we talked about the percentages of the percentage of rehab or the damage that the property has, and up to what percentage will the city condemn it as a tear down. So what is the next step that you want to discuss?
Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about now is the rehab process, right?
Perfect.
So,
Great.
and I don't need to go to the whiteboard for that, so
Okay.
I'll stay here with you ladies.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've noticed some other investors that have talked to me that are considering purchasing a fire damage house is that they sometimes tell me like, hey, I think I can salvage, this and this and that, or I think I don't really think I need to, change the plumbing on it and this and that, To tell you the truth, I have never bought a fire damaged house where I was able to salvage any of the mechanicals. So that's, one of the big, that's a big point that I want to make, because what I would like is for wholesalers to, other investors are talking to, these homeowners that want to sell their houses over. I did have one time a couple that was telling me, well, no, I mean, the air conditioner system, it just got smoke. I mean, I'm sure you can just maintenance. You know what? The amount of inspections and scrutiny that these properties go through, you don't want to risk it.
Absolutely.
Remember, you have to disclose everything. If you're going to sell this house, if you're planning on flipping it, you have to disclose everything to the prospective buyer. You have to disclose, that it was a fire damage house. They're also more than likely going to need to see all of the permits. The lender is probably going to need to see all of the permits. If you're going to keep it, like how I kept a couple of them, and you're going to refinance it, your lender might require for you to show all these permits. Sure. And so if there was a fire in the house and you decided, like I normally rewire all of my properties with electrical, so.
So curious, so whenever you talked about, educating your buyers, right? So do you actually sell the properties yourself? Or do you hire an agent to do that? And if so, is that agent specialized in damaged, homes who can then educate the buyers?
Well, that's a good question, because I don't know if I had mentioned to you that I actually had the need to open up our own brokerage, because so my brother, like I said, is also prior military, and we're very much disciplined, like little ex-military robots. Shout out to Luis. And so he's a licensed realtor. He works with me side by side. He is, he's probably, I think my husband's my right hand and my brother's my left hand.
You might want to say that to be safe, right?
Exactly. So my brother Luis, he is, not only my business partner, but he's a licensed realtor. And so we co-own a real estate brokerage, but he's the licensed realtor. And I've had him be out there and do project management. He doesn't just, sit back at the office and, sell houses. He's out there sometimes with us. And I've taught him how to evaluate houses. So I'm not going to say that you probably need somebody that specializes, in fire damage houses to represent you. But we always use the term investor friendly. And I guess that's probably what you are going to need in these type of properties, who at least have an idea about it, So because, Luis, he actually goes out there to the inspections, when the buyers have their inspections, he provides everything. He provides all of our warranties. If we have, so going into the rehab, we usually have to, do a whole new roof. So we provide all of the warranties for the roof. We provide all of the warranties for all the mechanicals, like the AC. We usually put in a brand new AC system. We provide all of that, and then he makes an entire bullet list of all the repairs that we did, and he provides these to the inspector and the appraiser.
Got it.
Because it can be scary. I think if you're a buyer and you're buying a house that was on fire at one time.
I've had to represent buyers in that type of situation where I've shown them houses that have been burned but rehabbed, and they're always scared. That they always have that thought in the back of their head that if this house burned once, will it burn again?
I was going to ask, what are some of those objections? I'm curious. Okay, so that's
right. So I really truly see the value there that your brother's bringing in with when he's listing it, and making sure that everything's covered, and all the doubts and the fears that the buyer will come into, knowing that it's a house that's burned before, that's not going to happen again. That's not likely with all the new systems in place.
Right, exactly. Right? So, that's where I'm saying that when you're going to do the rehab, it's so important for you just start fresh.
Right.
Don't cut corners. These type of rehabs are not the ones that you want to cut corners with.
Absolutely.
So.
And, so what I got from that is to our viewers is, when you're dealing with these type of buyers, the best thing to do is to anticipate the objections. All right. And then go in prepared to answer those objections. Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. We have a question from Brady Durr. Hey, Brady, thank you for tuning in. If the lender is owed $140,000, but you want it at $60,000, do you short the lender?
So I've never had to do a short sale. You also have to remember, actually, you know what? I didn't put in here about the insurance.
Okay.
But you have to remember that most of these homeowners have homeowners insurance, And so most of them have actually already gone through the entire process of their claim.
Okay.
And so, perfect example. I bought one. Actually, the one that I have on the market right now.
Okay.
I think you saw it on my Facebook the other day. That one, I think I got it for $60,000. The seller still owed $120,000, I believe, and I believe they got enough to be able to pay the lender from the insurance.
Okay.
And then they got a little bit, from what I paid them, and the wholesaler also got their assignment fee. So most of the time, the insurance companies, I've heard, some insurance companies that come in there and they usually pay off the entire balance remaining, plus, a little bit more, for them to move and do all that. So
have you ever dealt with a property that there wasn't homeowners insurance in place?
I did have one presented to me. And I didn't move forward with it because it needed way too much work. And because he didn't have insurance, his asking was really, really high.
Absolutely.
So, I understand it's relative. They want to cover, what they have. But I've never had to do a short sale on, a fire damaged house. So I don't know how exactly that would go.
Okay.
Awesome. And we have another question from John George Alvarez. What is your average cost per square foot on a fire damaged home?
Well, John, because I do have my own crew, and because to us it's already kind of become a system, and like I said, I kind of pretty much have an idea of just going in there and looking at it. I pretty much, I look at the rafters and I look at the mechanicals and I look at the cosmetics. Most of the time, I'm going to try to stay anywhere between $40 and $50 a square foot. I do know that there are some other investors that go as high as $70 a square foot. To tell you the truth, if it's going to be as high as $70 a square foot, I might walk away. Or unless, I'm getting it for pennies on the dollars or something, but that's usually my sweet spot.
Yeah. Awesome. And we have another question from Lisa Ann. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite woman. So in Marion County, Indiana, city inspectors only have a few days to complete the inspection once it's been called in.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, Cookie the hamster. Where can you obtain a list of fire damaged homes? Harry Byrne.
I wish I knew. And if anybody out there has a list, please let me know. But no, to tell you the truth, like I said, I know that there are some wholesalers that have connections with firefighters. I also know, a lot of people drive for dollars. And then also, a lot of wholesalers or other investors, they kind of shy away because I think that they're intimidated by these properties. So, this was why I'm trying to get out there. But most of the time, there's not really. I've seen some on the MLS, some driving for dollars, and then, wholesalers and all that. So,
Lily, I did want to expand on that a little bit. So earlier you also mentioned that you get a lot of these from wholesalers, and then that sometimes, depending on the property, you have to wait until you get information from the city, and then you have to tell them, yes, I'll go for it. But as we know, wholesalers want to move in quick. So can you expand a little bit more about how you manage that relationship with a wholesaler to make sure that the wholesaler is willing to wait on you, and then B, that obviously you don't go into the due diligence and then come back to the wholesaler and saying, yes, I want it, and then they have already sold it. So how do you...
Yes, that's a really good question, because, I understand that, they need to move.
Sure.
But one of the things that I usually do is I'll usually let them know, I'll do the worst case scenario, and then I can give them a ballpark of what I probably will be able to offer. And so if that number seems like something that we can work with, then I'll let them know that, send me over the contract. I could actually even sign it now. The only thing is, I can't give you my EMD yet until I do my due diligence. Because, going into contract does require, doing your due diligence. And that's part of my due diligence, So, and that's worst case scenario, by the way. Don't get me wrong, wholesalers out there. If you want to bring me a property, don't think that you're going to have to wait for me to go to the city for every single deal. That's just on something that, it looks like it's falling apart. I know that there's a couple of properties that have been abandoned for a year or two, and they've been making their way around the daisy chains.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And then, finally, they come back to me and then I tell them, look, this is probably the most I'm going to be able to do. And if you are, interested in, that ballpark figure, let me do a little bit more, of my due diligence, and then, we can see if we can go forward with the deal.
Awesome.
I was just remembering a situation of a deal that you and I both saw circulating of many on Facebook. That's how Lily and I met, actually.
Exactly.
We're in the same city, but we met on Facebook first and then in person, which is
Happens
pretty
all the
neat.
time.
Yes. And we were both looking at a deal. Do you remember? Not too long ago, I think it was offered at $40,000, and the ARV was, it was, the numbers were off. It was like the ARV was 120, right? But the asking was 40, and the repairs, I think they gave some number that was so off. And looking at the pictures, and you and I sent you a message, and I was like 20, and you were like, I was thinking 18.
Exactly.
So yeah, some of these numbers really, this is the reason why we wanted to bring this show to you and bring Lily today, because we see a lot of, we appreciate that everyone wants to get into wholesaling, especially those that are working really hard, because to get a lead does take work. But I think that this is important for them to analyze and see that the numbers are really important, especially talking right now. This is a good question. Oh, actually, it went away, but there was a question that somebody asked about the pricing per square foot. Again, it just also, we can go refer back to, it depends, right, on how damaged the house is. If you see a roof, if you don't see a roof. and things like that. John George Alvarez. Oh yes, John George. There it is.
Okay.
How are you calculating square foot? The square foot you would add to a property.
How are you calculating the square foot you would add to a property? I rarely ever add square feet to the property, to tell you the truth. I normally will stay to its true nature. So if the property is 2,400 square feet and it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, I will more than likely keep it that way. And I'll usually turn in my plans on just repairing what the existing structure is. I rarely ever add on to that. I mean, I already have, a big, project to do, and then adding to it, is going to probably be more. So I probably stay away from that. So I don't add square feet to it. So if anything, some of the things I might do, for example, on the property that we did not too long ago, is we removed a wall in order to make the master bathroom larger. So, but it might be just if the studs are not if they're not supporting, and we can remove it, then But if it's going to be too intricate, then we probably won't do it.
So you do a structural adjustment to it, not so much adding square footage. Okay, and getting into the nitty gritty of the rehab. My question to you is, because of the mold situation that can arise from dealing with fire damaged homes. How detailed is that, and how does that affect your rehab budget, and how important is it to see if there is mold and the testing and all? Well,
extremely important.
Right. Okay.
Extremely important. We all know that,
Right.
especially after Harvey. Actually, that's when I got exposed to all this the mold consequences.
We all did.
Yeah.
All of us that are out in the trenches got exposed to a lot of interesting things in the air.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually, right before Harvey was when I started my very first fire damage house. And so luckily, it didn't get affected, but I did start learning more about, mold remediation and everything. And, like I said, my worst fear is that I get red tagged, because that can happen, or that I get, a code violation, or that the HOA shuts me down, or that they sue me for not doing something right. So I go all out. I mean, if it looks like it's, I've seen some that are extremely molded and they have, black mold everywhere, then I'll go through a professional remediator. If it's some parts that that probably maybe like the studs, like you remove the sheetrock and then you see that the studs have a little bit of mold or everything, I use what's called sensor.
Okay.
And then that's you have some that's special for smoke, and then you have some that's special for mold.
Okay.
And it's like a primer. It's kind of like Kills, but a little bit more pricey and just a little bit more heavy duty. So
It's funny that you mentioned Kills, because don't you remember after Harvey, it was insane how many people were saying just spray Kills all over and it'll take care of the issue. And it's like, no, Kills won't kill it. I mean, just because it has that name. Yes. And on that note, we really would like to thank our viewers for tuning in, and we're definitely going to get to your questions very, very soon. We'd like for you to please comment, share, like if you're enjoying the show, if you find any value, and please get your questions to Lily, because I'm sure I know there are people out there that have a ton of questions. We'll be right back right after this short break.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
yeah, I had that.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you watching our show with Lily Corona, our special guest from Houston, where we're sharing, Lily is sharing nuggets about fire damaged homes, how she's turning ashes into gold. And speaking of which, gold, how about these HOAs? Tell us more about this, because you touched about it lightly here when we were discussing your deal, but tell us the details. What are the intricacies of dealing with the HOA?
Okay, yes. So it's going to be very easy for you to get a little bit sidetracked, once you start your project, because you might get a little sidetracked with all your permits that you have to do with, the city, because you have so much paperwork you have to fill out for them, and then you have, so many things that you have to abide by. But sometimes, getting so preoccupied with that, you forget about the HOA, right? And trust me, I know.
I've been guilty of that.
Yes.
I've been guilty of that myself. Trust me, I know that. I know that pain.
Yes. And of course, not every property has an HOA, but I'm not really sure how it is up here. But down in Houston, 8 out of 10 maybe?
Yes, yes.
Like I was saying, the very first thing that you want to do once you have, your property, and you're getting ready for the project, please do not start anything. Even if you already have your permits ready with the city, don't start anything until you talk with the HOA. The reason I'm saying that is because it happened to me. I had so many, we were ready, we were actually only cleaning, and we received a letter from the HOA's legal firm to cease and desist anything that, we were doing. All we were doing was cleaning. I would have thought that they were like, thank you for starting to clean this big old mess that we've been looking at for the past year. But no. So not only did I receive this letter that I had to stop everything, but I also had to pay the HOA fee that they, were charged by their attorneys. So I had to pay all that. And of course, then I had to also go in and then start discussing everything with them, what's going to require for them to give me the permits. So they have their own, like I said, they have their own agenda. They have their own entire regulations and set of permits. So think you're...
Oh, sorry, Lily, quick question, or just to clarify, because I want to make sure. They were fining you just because you were cleaning the house?
Because I started work on the site without getting permits from them.
So you needed to get a permit previous to even entering, pretty much, and moving anything around. That's interesting.
Exactly. So they have, most of the time, the management, usually how it's like the HOA and then they have a management company. So you have to go through, all these different channels. You have to find out first who the management company is and then see if they're the ones that are going to handle it or if they transfer you to the actual HOA, Then the HOAs will let you know if you go through them or if you have to go through the legal department or if they have, a special department for, for the remodel. So what happened was that, there were already code violations from the HOA on the property for the previous owner. And then this was the one that the whole entire garage collapsed because I heard that he was doing a barbecue in the garage. And that's what caused the fire. So the whole entire garage collapsed. And so there were already, violations and penalties and fees. And so now here I come, new owner, wanting to start cleaning my house. And no, they said, no, you have to start, you have to submit your paperwork in order for you to, get the permits. And so then, so I received the cease and desist. Then I submitted all of my paperwork, once the management company sent me the packet, that I have to fill out. And they want to know everything. They want to know, of course, what you're going to do to it. What colors are you going to do? Are you going to do a roof? What type of roof? What's the name of the product? They want to know everything. So you submit all of that to them, and then they'll tell you, okay, we also need plans. We're going to need your architectural plans. Okay, but the city didn't need them, but we do. Okay, so yes, Mr. HOA, and then they'll authorize whether maybe they don't like the color that you're wanting to do, so that's fine. You change it. So basically, my whole point of that is that it's easy to get sidetracked with all the city permits, but please don't forget your HOA permits as well.
Yep.
Oh man, it's an amazing reminder.
That's a really good tip. I've had issues with HOA, but not to the point where the cleaning aspect is the issue from the get-go. So that's a really good tip. That's something that I didn't know. So I learned that's a new nugget for me.
Yeah. I'm learning all of it. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, and actually that HOA sent over inspectors, just like the city. They sent over their own inspectors. I had to, you know, every time that I completed one phase, they wanted to inspect it.
How interesting.
So Lily, I'm curious. So I know that you're currently doing, you know, your rehabs right now, and of course you're going through. I think every single step there's always some caveat to it. So, can you share with us what are some of the current challenges that you're experiencing in your business?
Sure. I think just like everybody else, finding the deal. You know, and not only finding the deal, but the biggest challenge I'm having, like I said, is it seems to be that there is a lack of knowledge out in our community of, you know, our community of investors. There seems to be a lack of knowledge. So it seems that there are deals being presented, but just kind of winging it. Like, you know, sometimes I'm looking at this and I'm like, hey, so where did you get this rehab cost from? I don't know. I'm thinking maybe, you know, 50, 60,000. And I'm like,
Right.
that's like a 2,500 square foot house that needs a whole entire new roof and the garage is like gone.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Lily? No, no, you probably doubled that, you know. But by this time, this is my huge frustration that by this time they already gave this expectation to the seller, you know, and they already have offered maybe this high asking price this high purchase price to the seller. And the seller's already thinking like, oh my gosh, I got my insurance and I'm getting all this money from, you know, this guy that wants to buy my house, you know? And then they have to go back and they can either not sell it or they have to go back and say, Mr. Seller, I'm sorry, you know, the rehab is actually larger than.
And for credibility purposes, that is just the worst that you could do is I mean, these are people's lives here that are at stake. And whether they have insurance or not, that you're giving them this high expectation. It's like a wholesale too, a wholesaler giving you high expectations that your ARV is going to be this number. And then you run your numbers and the ARV is completely off. It's way lower than what they're telling you. Exactly. So I think that there's nothing wrong with asking. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to someone that's the expert in the field. In this case, I don't want to say go to Lily and have her coach you and hold your hand throughout every single deal. But I think that this is definitely an opportunity for us to think about a possible class that you could give, a seminar on this, because I know firsthand that, and you and I agree on this, there isn't anything out there like a book or a guide, a guidebook that'll tell you these are the steps, this is what you need to do, these are the things that you need to look at. Because there's so many details that are involved around a fire damaged home, right?
Exactly.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because that's what I was going to say. So now that we know clearly there's a lack of knowledge in this space, then how can we help? And you know, of course, you know, definitely setting up a class is a fantastic idea. But in the meantime, for our viewers right now, you know, what is something that you feel that they can go and do right now, tactical, so they can start getting better at, you know, presenting offers?
I think that just dive in and start doing your research, just like me. You know, I mean, I was a realtor turned investor, and I just dove in and I started asking questions. I started going to the city. You know, I would look, you know, instead of running away from a fire damaged house, I went in and I started looking at them, you know, and I started studying what are rafters, you know, like, you know, what girl goes in there and, wow, these rafters need to be replaced. No, you know, like we don't really know that. I started studying all that. I started studying, you know, what are rafters, what are studs, what are joists, what are the components of a roof. If my husband, you know, was telling me, you know, the plywood has to do this and that, and I'm like, okay, so the plywood also has to be replaced, you know, and so just dive in and start researching and start learning, you know, and not only that though, but like I said, I would Google, you know, some like techniques in order to get rid of the smoke smell, you know, like start studying that. Also, what products can be used. That's how I learned about some of the products out there, you know. Some of them are commercial products, you know. Also, like I said, the city. You know, don't be scared of going to the city, you know. I mean, find out, like, what do you have to do to get permits, you know? And like I said, you know, I play the girl card and I'm just like, please help me.
Right. And you know, that reminds me, another thing is that, you know, when you said go out, look at these houses, they can go out with a contractor, and specifically if they have, you know, experience with fire damage homes, have a contractor go out with you and walk the properties with that contractor and do really a repair estimator, right? So
that's key. It has to be a contractor that it has experience in this particular situation, because not all contractors, we know this, not all contractors are on the same situation or the same page in that. So I think that's super key. Any final thoughts, Lily, that you can share with our followers, with our viewers?
I would actually also like to say that, you know, I'm open to suggestions, you know, from the public. And, you know, what are you guys seeing out there? I'm so focused on, you know, because I manage the business, you know, like I said, with the real estate. And we also started expanding our rental portfolio. So I'm not really out there as much out in the field as I would like to. But what are you guys seeing out there, you know, and what are some suggestions, you know, how can we come together and improve, you know, not only our community as far as investors, but also to improve our communities, you know, because these houses are, you know, are awful to look at, and they bring the value down, you know, of our property values. So, you know, what are you guys seeing out there, and what do you suggest?
great. And then, so how could our viewers reach you?
Oh, so actually, can they reach me through can you put a link?
You want.
Okay,
Anyway, yes.
Yeah, you
For
can.
questions,
Yeah,
anything,
if
and-
you could put a link to my Facebook page, maybe
We'll do that.
You know,
Okay.
I'm very I'm usually, you know, on there, and I'm very easy to get, you know, hold of, and you can ask me questions, and you know, I'm not mean or anything, and I'll
Excellent.
No,
yeah,
she's
reply.
very, very sweet. And you will find Lily also do guest appearances on 713. That's a 713 Facebook group.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
where a lot of people post a lot of questions, and Lily always is very helpful there. That's how actually I met her, that she answers a lot of questions. So there you go, folks. Let us know how we can help you and your business, and how can we be of service. In this particular case, Lily can be of service to you in getting your feet wet, or getting more information as far as how to deal with fire damaged homes. And with that, we're wrapping up our show. I can't believe the whole hour went by so
Wow.
quickly.
That was
And let us know if you want more of this, if you found value in our show, if you enjoyed what we brought to you today, and you enjoyed having our listening to our guests. Please let us know. We're here for you. My name's Elizabeth Navarrete, Houston REI Network. I fix and flip. I acquire deals on my own. I work with wholesalers. If you have any fantastic deals to send my way, I do international investing as well. So if you have anything overseas, send them my way. I am your buyer, your principal buyer.
Yes, powerhouse right here. I mean, both
thank
of
you.
them. So, and thank you all. I'm Debbie Camacho Franco, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, CreativeCashFlow.com, and Lifeonaire.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.